Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. Winston Churchill said, "Those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it." But an even bigger danger are those who learn from the bad points of history and repeat them intentionally. On February 27, 1933, there was an arson attack on the German parliament in Berlin. It occurred exactly 4 weeks after Adolf Hitler was sworn in as the Chancellor of Germany. This became the excuse to suspend civil liberties and gave the Nazis complete control over the government. Fast forward to January 6, 2021. There was a large demonstration at the Capitol building in Washington which turned violent. Joe Biden said, "What we witnessed yesterday was not dissent, it was disorder. They weren't protesters, they were rioters, insurrectionists, and domestic terrorists. I wish we could say we didn't see it coming, but that isn't true. We could." So Joe Biden says that a large group of people wearing Make America Great Again hats at the Capitol building were not protesters, they were terrorists, and that he knew that violence was coming. And yet the Democratic mayor of the District of Columbia and Nancy Pelosi, who's in charge of Capitol security, refused to allow the FBI to help out with security at the protest. The FBI warned that there was going to be violence at the demonstration, and yet the Democrats in charge of security refused to allow them to help out. And then when the violence began, the police just stood there and didn't attempt to stop it.
Why are you letting this happen? Why haven't you called for backup? Where is your backup? This is our damn Capitol building, and y'all are letting it get destroyed on your watch. Fuck all of you. Call for backup. Get some help down here. And if they don't want to get you fucking backup, they obviously don't give a shit about you. These people want blood.
Joe Biden says that he knew violence was coming, but the Democrats in charge of security refused the help they needed to prevent it from happening. Then the story quickly morphed. It became that President Donald Trump, commander-in-chief of the largest military in the world, attempted to overthrow his own government using some unarmed guy wearing a buffalo hat.
Hey! Fucking hey, man. Glad to see you guys. You guys are fucking patriots. Look at this guy. He's got covered in blood. God bless you.
Yes.
You good, sir? Do you need medical attention?
I'm good, thank you.
All right.
I got shot in the face. Where are they? I got shot in the face with some kind of plastic bullet.
Any chance I could get you guys to leave the Senate wing?
We will. I've been making sure they ain't disrespecting the place.
Okay, just want to let you guys know this is like the sacredest place.
I know. Hey.
That didn't look very much like an armed insurrection by people who were trying to overthrow the government. And yet it quickly became the excuse to silence the President of the United States and turn Washington, D.C. into an armed fortress. We have no idea who the people were who actually started the violence at the Capitol. But it quickly became the excuse for martial law and suspension of civil liberties. Suddenly every Republican in the country became a potential terrorist.
The mob that stormed the Capitol on January 6 to try to stop Congress from carrying out its constitutional responsibilities were behaving like domestic enemies of our country. But let's be clear. The John Brennans, Adam Schiffs, and the oligarchs in big tech who are trying to undermine our constitutionally protected rights and turn our country into a police state with KGB-style surveillance are also domestic enemies, and much more powerful and therefore dangerous than the mob that stormed the Capitol.
Democrats have been inciting violence and insurrection since the first day of the Trump presidency, and the press described it as mostly peaceful protests.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick them.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized right up to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
That's it right there, pulling up.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet.
But now the press says that every Trump supporter in the country is a potential terrorist. This is not only out of the playbook of 1933, but it's very similar to what happened after the attack on the World Trade Center in 2001. Suddenly, every Muslim in the country became a potential terrorist because of the actions of a few.
CARE was founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something and that all of us were starting to lose access to our civil liberties.
The bottom line is that the military-industrial complex wants conflict and they want war. Biden is shutting down the U.S. energy industry, which will inevitably bring us back to war in the Middle East. And he's using his own version of the Reichstag fire to establish a police state in the United States. On the 28th of February 1933, President Hindenburg signed the Emergency Decree for the Protection of the German People. This decree suspended the democratic aspects of the Weimar Republic and declared a state of emergency. This decree gave the Nazis a legal basis for the persecution and oppression of any opponents who were framed as traitors to the Republic. The decree also removed basic personal freedoms such as the freedom of speech. This sounds an awful lot like what Tulsi Gabbard is describing as the actions of the administration and that of big tech. Toto thinks we better learn the lessons of history because the bad guys are using it as their playbook. You can visit Toto and Kyrie on the web at realclimatescience.com.